Hello and welcome to our concluding sessions of marketing management part 2. We are going to talk about in this next two session about a wrap up on marketing mix, which has been the prominent topic that we have covered in this marketing management part 2. I am Shashi Shekhar Mishra
and I am Untitled Chatterjee, and we are both from the Industrial Management Department of IIT Kanpur.
Okay. So, to just start with, we have started the emphasis of this course was about marketing mix. We have seen the overall process perspective of marketing as a function, that marketing starts with the business analysis which helps us in framing our marketing strategy, and then based on this marketing strategy to implement those strategy in the markets, you have marketing mix. So, we have talked about 4 P's in the case of products, physical goods, which is product, price, place and promotion, and then in 7 P's in the case of services. So, we started with products and we said the product is defined, and or you can say in general that an offering is defined as a bundle of benefits. So, I gave you an example of a car. If you want to conceptualize as a marketeer what a car is basically a bundle of benefits, in the sense it fulfills your transportation needs, it fulfills your safety needs, it fulfills also your status needs, and the level of these benefits as that vary, you will see also the cost and the price of the products will also be changing. So, a more formal definition of the product was, a product is anything that can be offered to a market to satisfy a want or need, including physical goods. These are the type of products or the offering which are marketed in any market is physical goods, services, experience, events, persons, places, properties, organization, information and ideas. So, we have talked each one of them when we were discussing about this topic in detail, and then we have talked about the different levels of the product or the product hierarchy. Actually, we talked about that there is a core benefit, the need at the base of any product which is fulfilled by that product category, and the basic products, the next level of this in the product hierarchy is a basic product, a form of a product which fulfills that core need. So, this is the bare minimum requirement from the product side. Then you have an expected level of product, a set of attributes and conditions buyers normally expect when they purchase this product. So, when you take a hotel room, you expect certain things within a room from your past experience or probably what you have known about from the internet or from the different sources. You have certain idea about what a hotel room will consist of. That forms your expected product level. The next level is this augmented product that exceeds customer expectations. So, probably couple of years back, this was the one of the example for the augmented product was that hotel room will have the Wi-Fi in a budget hotel, but today it might have gone to the expected product.
Correct.
So, you see this product in the hierarchy, what is seen or what is today considered as a augmented product, tomorrow it will become an expected product. So, in the case of car example, you see this lot of things like your wheel was or your driving was earlier it was manual, now it is becoming more of automated. So, these are more of expected product today in most of the models. Then you have a potential product which is the future added features or the augmentation which are possible in any product, in a potential product.
And this diagram which we have actually borrowed from Kotler, the famous onion diagram.
Yeah.
When we see a product, we actually see a product at this level.
Yeah.
And then we start peeling off the layers.
Yeah.
And then we will actually be able to find the core benefits. So, when we design the product promotion strategy, or when we design the product positioning, then we have to understand all these layers and this point that you said that these are not static, that some features which may be today augmented, they may tomorrow become expected. So, kind of there is a downward flow of features and benefits towards this core, which is the
and that also takes us to the point that as a company you have to keep innovating.
Absolutely.
So, you have to keep augmenting your product, and that has been the beginning of this concept of new product development, where we have talked about a new product development process. Though you will see that from one organization to other organization, there must be certain difference in the activities that they perform in their product development process, but when you try to generalize across the organization, every product development process can be broadly conceptualized under these stage and gate system. And the idea of the product development, I mean the product development process starts with the idea generation exercise, and these ideas are screened, and at the end of each gates you will find out there are predetermined criteria from the organization side. If a concept or if an idea fulfills those requirements, then only it proceeds further. And therein we have talked about a very essential requirement is that from the organization's perspective is that if something has to fail, it should fail early, because as you move or as you progress further in the new product development process, the cost to an organization to failure will be higher. So, then we have talked about this concept of diffusion of innovation. Once a product is launched in the market, how a product gets adopted by the potential customers in the market. And in this diffusion of innovation, we have seen that a generic diffusion of a product will follow a normal curve, and there we have talked about the 5 different categories of the adopters: innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority and laggards. We have seen the differences in the characteristics of each of the category of adopters. So, we have seen the difference between innovators and early adopters. So, innovators are the people who are you say have a keen interest in that product category, and they will like to know about those product much ahead of their counterparts in other product category. So, these people are those people who will be someone who will be more risk taker, and compared to them the other product category will like to see that product is more proven in terms of its functionality and its benefits. On the other side, when we look into this early adopters and other product category, they are different from the innovators. So, there has to be a change in the marketing strategy as well as other functional strategy of the organization, and that has taken us to the next level, or the next concept was product lifecycle management, wherein we have seen that we say that every product has a life cycle, and when we say every product has a life cycle, what does it mean? It means 4 different conditions are probably 4 important facts which are related with product life cycle concept is that every product has a limited life. So, this limited life could be a few months, could be few years, or maybe couple of decades, but still there will be a definite number to that life cycle. Then you will also see that this product life cycle, during the product life cycle a product passes through the different stages, and every stage has its own opportunities, its challenges and problems to seller. Now, what happens inside that, that as each stage is different from the other stage, you need to understand those stages quite well, how they are different from the other stages, and you need to change your strategies, and that is what this last point is, that product requires different functional. And as you see that product passes through different stages, profits also vary at during the product life cycle. So, this graph actually what we have explained at that point of time was that you see in the initial stages where the sales is very less. So, the sales is less and your expenditures are very high in terms of educating the customers, in terms of your investment in the channels, and in terms of creating the facilities. So, in that sense your investments are high in the introduction stage. So, that is where you will say see that the sales is less, but the profits are on a higher side, and then it goes to growth, maturity and the decline stage. And one has to understand, we have discussed at during those sessions, that how the marketing strategies need to change. Just for the sake of an example, I will tell you that introduction stage, while one of the most key objectives in the promotion, this introduction stage of the promotional strategy, is that you need to educate the customers. If
product features.
Product features.
In fact, last week, that means week 7, actually using the same product life cycle graph, we have discussed in detail about that how the promotion, or rather the integrated marketing communication strategy, as I explained to you, how it changes over the life cycle. So, the communication objectives at this stage are different from the communication objectives at this stage, different from communication objectives at this stage. Interestingly, even distribution, which we discussed in the 6th week, that also has
changing across,
because at distribution here will be much more direct, whereas you will more and more rely on networks. If your business is growing nicely, then you will need more intermediaries and more networks as the life cycle progresses.
So, this was about the product life cycle concept, and then we have also discussed about something like introduction strategy, like whether you should be a pioneer in the market or whether you should be a follower. So, I have told you at that point of time that there are advantages to both, whether you are a follower or whether you are a pioneer. Pioneer has a certain advantage in terms of you will have more recall value, your brand will establish as the name of the product category. I have given you a number of example where customer recognize that product category by the brand name. So, Xerox is used synonymously with this photocopying, this adhesive, medical adhesive, which is used for as a banded, as a more as a product category names. So, you will see that customers will have affinity to the first brand which is launched, and since you are basically a pioneer in the market, you will probably reach to that in the costing part or the learning part, you will reach to a advantageous position compared to any of your follower. Your unit cost must be much lower than your competitors, because the number of units that you are selling, and from your learning curve you will be able to produce the same thing at a lesser cost. So, in that sense you will have generally more power in terms of fighting a price war. If a competitor initiates a fight war of equal financial might, the chances are that you may win that in this kind of conditions. So, after this we have started talking about brands. Actually, we have seen that a brand as basically a subtopic of the product, and we have looked into the brand from two different perspectives. One is like a academic definition, where we say that a brand is a name, term, sign, symbol, or a combination of these, and it is intended to identify the offering of one seller from the other seller and to differentiate them from those competitors. So, brand plays a very important role for the seller as well as customers. From the customer's point of view, we have discussed that brand simplifies your decision making process. So, instead of processing lot of information, the brand helps a customer to reduce their information processing requirement, and also they help in reducing the perceived risk for the customer. For the seller, actually one of the key benefits is that it is a differentiator for any organization, which is difficult as a what you say, as a market barrier to overcome by the competitors. So, we have talked about a lot of number of examples from the different product categories where there is a dominant brand, and competitors, in spite of having a product which is of same in terms of the performance or the features, will find it really difficult to overcome the barrier of the brand. We have also looked into this aspect that brand is not just a name and logo, it is an organization's promise to a customer to deliver what the brand stands for, not only in terms of functional benefit, but also emotional, self-expressive and social benefits. Then we have seen, but that brand is also about a promise, it is also a journey and evolving relationship based on perception and experience. that a customer has every time he or she connects to a brand. So, every experience that a customer has with a company has a role or the impact on the brand equity. And then we have looked into this customer base brand equity concept, and then we have looked into deeply that customer based brand equity has 3 dimensions, that the brand knowledge that a consumer or a user has in his mind, and what is the impact of this brand knowledge on the differential effect, like how this brand knowledge actually changes the preferences in the customer, and then finally what is the consumer response. If consumer has a different image in the minds, then how their response towards that brand will change with respect to the other brands. So, to decode how actually a brand works, we have seen this process perspective of the brand, that how actually a brand works. So, we have seen that first a brand awareness gets developed in the minds of a consumer, and once a consumer knows about a brand, then what is his response will depend on what kind of image has. Consumer may have awareness about certain brand, but depending on the kind of finally what kind of image they have, that will ultimately affect its cognitive or affective processing and leading to the preference towards the brand. So,
and last week actually we used the same transition or progress when in relation to promotion and the models through which people make buying decisions like AIDA, etc.
Yeah.
So, and we discussed the similarity between the buying process model and the role of promotion, and also what we had discussed earlier with respect to brand. The similarity among these models.
Yeah. So, when we were discussing about the brands, we have talked about how a brand is an intangible assets to an organization, and I have talked about different valuations of the brand, that certain brands in the world are billions of dollars worth for an organization. They have been nurtured and built by the organization over the period of time, and they are such a barrier or probably such an assets for those organization that competitors will find it very difficult to break those kind of this perception based barriers. So, to understand this, I have talked about this associated network, how actually the brand actually works in the minds of the consumer. So, I gave you an example of Patanjali. So, when a consumer is aware about recalls that the brand Patanjali, then what comes in his mind? There are different kind of associations which are evoked in the minds of the consumers, like it is a brand which is associated with being Ayurvedic, being authentic or pure. It is associated with being a Indian brand or a local brand or the brand which we inherits.
Well, that is actually what Patanjali is trying to say,
Yeah.
that do not buy foreign products, buy
Yeah.
this. But of course, if you really look at the shareholding and other patterns, I do not know, maybe HUL is as Indian,
As
they are also in India now for almost 100 years or more, and they have a very large Indian shareholding. So, though Unilever is a multinational, but they are also quite local in many ways. But Patanjali, I think, is very cleverly utilizing, leveraging this even in their promotion over TV or even over radio. They are harping on this point, that if you buy,
your money is going back to the same society.
Be Indian, buy Indian, that sort of thing.
So, and there is this concept of the trust is also associated with this brand, which I think is very important in some of the food product category where Patanjali has introduced its product. It offers a value for money. So, you see when a brand name comes into the mind, certain kind of association gets provoked, and this association actually creates a certain kind of brand image, and that brand image actually is basically a feed to this our cognitive or affective process, and ultimately leads to the brand preferences.
And I think clever brand managers in a way to add a little bit of spice to the whole thing, you know, they encourage a mild controversy.
Yeah.
A manageable controversy, some arguments, some debates, because that keeps it alive.
Yeah, that keeps it alive. In fact, we have talked about another example of Amul in this case of associative network model, where Amul always associate itself with the latest news trends, and most of them are actually in some way it's a controversial also. So what happens is it's a satire, and it's a basically a relevant or to that point, or very consistent with the current sentiments of the population. So by associating a brand with this kind of thing, it remains always there.
And then Amul often referring to those controversies, they make a very clever point that whatever may be the controversy, there is no controversy about Amul, that it is very good.
Valuable Amul, the value which is inherited.
Yes.
So, in fact, I would just emphasize that this clever marketing or smart marketing part, that some kind of element is kept inside this whole brand creation, so that that lets a certain kind of propagation of conversation around the brand and that actually helps in building the brand or the brand awareness, which we have talked about, that this brand awareness and brand image. Brand awareness has two aspects, that brand recognition and the brand recall, how you recognize, if you are given cues, can you recognize the brand. So, and the second thing is the brand recall, with cues or without cues, how strong that brand is inside your mind, whether you can recall it. To create basically a favorable image or probably a positive image, you need to have in the brand image three dimensions, that the brand should be strong, favorable and unique. So, if your brand has these three dimensions inside itself, then probably customers are going to prefer your brand as probably intended by the brand manager. Then I have summarized this whole thing here, that what are the tools actually. I mean, we are talking about how the brands are built, but then we have also looked into the what are the different tools that the brand manager has to create the brand image, brand awareness. So, then we have looked into the three different types of tools, that in terms of choice of the brand elements, and then in terms of the marketing program to reinforce the kind of brand image he is trying, and the leverage of the secondary associations. So, you can see in this slide we have talked about brand elements, we talked about 6 brand elements, and there were 6 criteria to choose those brand elements. Then we have talked about marketing programs, how the 4 P's or the marketing mix reinforces the certain kind of brand positioning that we are trying to achieve, and then the certain kind of secondary associations we have talked about with certain examples at that point of time, that how the company or the country of origin, channel of distribution, these basically evoke certain kind of images, and by associating your brand with those associations, you leverage certain kind of image to your brand, and that helps you in creating the brand awareness and the brand image. Then we talked about the next thing, or the second P in the marketing mix, was the price. So, how do you create a price for a product when you are introducing first in the market? So, it was a 6 steps process. We have seen this 6 step process in a very detailed manner, where we have looked into the objectives of the pricing, and then where we have talked about how these pricing objectives are related with the positioning of the product. I talked about the example of Tata Nano, like how the pricing, or the one of the weaknesses of the Tata Nano was in terms of the kind of image it has created, because it was labeled as a cheap product. Then we have looked into the second aspect of this setting the price. Once we have determined what are our pricing objective, then we need to look into what is the demand, and we estimate our cost. In the cost aspect, we have looked into the total cost, which is addition or sum of fixed cost plus variable cost, and then from there we have looked into how we need to assess the competitors' response, that whatever we price and our pricing moves, how the competitors are going to differ in different situation. In fact, I talked about a game theoretic model where the two competitors in a market situation, if one changes its price and what will be the impact on the other, and if both anticipate each other's move and if both try to change their price, what will happen in those situations. And then we have looked into the pricing methods. So, therein I have talked about prominently these 5 pricing method, or you can say like 4 pricing method, this going rate pricing and auction pricing we have tried to summarize at that point of time. So, markup pricing, target return pricing, perceived value pricing, going rate pricing and auction pricing we have looked into. I have tried to explain it when I was trying to explain that when you are trying to finally price a product, the price will the floor will be set by the cost of the product, the ceiling will be set by the perceived value or the benefits, the actual value that is a customer will gain from any product, and depending these are the you can see on a balance left and the right where finally the point will get a stake depends on the competition which is present in the market. So, if you have a very intense competition in the market, you will see that the prices going more towards on the cost side. So, there will be a certain margin, a standard margin which is coming up in the market, which every seller will be putting on their end product. But if there is a very differentiated product in the market and you see that there is no other competitors or substitutes are not easily available. So, the pricing will be more on the perceived value side. We have looked into the examples from the pharmaceutical sectors and many other luxury brand or the luxury product categories. We have looked into the where we have seen that the pricing was more on the perceived value side. So, this was about the second P, and with this we have we are going to wrap up this session, and then the second session we will talk.
No, I think one point is that you know, we earlier discussed about that whether you want to be a leader or you want to be a follower. And in pricing, therefore, if you are a leader, you have the freedom of setting the price in a way more by using the perceived value and other considerations. But if you are a follower, then your ceiling may be your dominant competitor's price. So, therefore, in a highly competitive market,
that is what I was saying.
The pricing leadership in a way, price leadership will come from operational excellence. The more better handle you have on your cost, you have more flexibility to do pricing.
So, in fact, when we were discussing about this part, final price of a product, we have looked into this aspect that fighting with a already established competitor or already established company on price point might not be a very advisable thing, because what may happen that that company is selling more number of units of that product. So, they will realize this operational excellence or this experience on the experience curve, they will be they have reached to a much ahead stage than to a newcomer. So, their cost of producing that product, unit cost will be less. So, their margin for the same price point will be less. So, in fact, some of the smart companies, what they do is as the competition start entering into the market, they keep on lowering the prices of their product. So, for the new entrants, there is no not much of the margin, or there is that market does not look attractive to the new entrants, because they will not be able to make much of the money. Unlike this incumbent will still keep on making some money, because their cost of production is much less than any of the new competitor.
Okay. So, you want to conclude here today?
So, I will conclude here. We have talked about first two P's, product and the price. In the next in the next session, which is the last session of this course, we will talk about the remaining two P's, which is about place and the promotion, and then we will wind up the course. Thank you very much.
Thank you.